I'm very happy, excited to be here today to give this talk. Again, my name is Marcela Ferrada. I'm a staff clinician in NIAMS, and I also have a rare disease. And it's truly an honor, seriously. So then the title of our talk is Where There is Research, There is Hope. And most importantly is that we have research. I have no financial disclosures, but I do want to say that I am emotionally attached to this institution, and you're going to see why through my presentation. So that's supposed to be me standing there, at the end of the storm. So I finished my training in critical care and infectious diseases. And then I was just thinking, you go on with your life, you're done with all of these years of training. But unfortunately, there was a big storm coming after me. And the name of that storm is relapsing polyhcondritis. And it's a rare disease that, like many other people, in fact, more than 30 million Americans experience, as there is more than 10 million rare diseases, right? So this storm that come after us is something that is going to change our life forever, right? Our life and the life of our family members and everybody that is around us and, care for us. So I wanted to take the opportunity, of course, right? Because if you have a rare disease, then you want everybody to know about your disease, right? So then you will be at least I am, like a little bit annoying. I will be in an airplane. I will be saying like, do you want to know about relapsing polyhcondritis? So relapsing polyhcondritis is a systemic inflammatory disease that is rare, that affects the cartilage, and it has different symptoms between the patients. That means that the clinical presentations are very variable. And the problem with this is that the diagnosis is a clinical diagnosis. And because the symptoms are so different, it's a very difficult diagnosis to make, like many rare diseases, right? I bet like you guys probably have the same experience. And then based on this, we also, since the beginning, when we start studying this disease, we realized that this was probably more than one condition. Like the cause of the disease was like more than one. And in here, I want to show you the organ involvement in relapsing polyhcondritis in general. So it affects the cartilaginous structures, so the ear and the nose and the airway, because you have a lot of cartilage in the airway, the inner ear, which is going to give you dizziness and hearing loss, the eyes and the joints in all your body. Now, these are the main symptoms, but as I was saying before, the clinical manifestations could be very different, and then it is very systemic, right? So it can affect many other organs that we are discovering a lot. So what happens when you have a rare disease? So before you have a rare disease, we all have experienced this, right? You have no idea what is going on. You have all of these symptoms. Nobody can tell you what it is. You go and see all of these doctors. They give you these diagnoses. Wait a second, it's not that one, it's that other one. And then you have no idea who is going to treat you, how you're going to fix the problem. Or worse than that, you have nothing. This is all in your head. But what happens when you get the diagnosis? It's kind of like the same experience, right, with the arrows, because you get a diagnosis and you're like, okay, fine, I have a diagnosis, great. And then you go and look it up, and then you realize that this is a rare disease. And then you're like, okay, so now what do I do with this? Now I have a rare disease. There is not a lot of research. We don't know what to do about it. How do you treat it? How many doctors in the world exist that can treat my rare disease? Where do I go from here, right? And here I posted some resources that I think that are very useful when you get diagnosed with a rare disease. NCADs, of course, I am emotionally biased, so I have to put it first. Not very, very, very useful. And then the foundations. So if you have a rare disease, I bet that there is going to be a foundation. And if not, then you can create one, because it's extremely helpful for the patients and for the overall understanding of the disease in teaching and awareness and everything, the foundations. And I put the Vasculitis Foundation there because it's an example to me of a very successful foundation. Then the other part that is very important for researchers are the online support groups. And that for me was super helpful because then you can relate to other people that have your same experience. See, I was a doctor when I was diagnosed with this, but before doing anything, you're a human. So there is like so many things that are going through your head. Despite having the knowledge, despite knowing what was going to happen, you will be meeting people that have gone through the same process that can guide you and can teach you and make you feel better. After you get diagnosed with a rare disease, then what happens? And I think that you go through the grieving process. And in my opinion, you need to have more than 5 stages to be able to move forward. So you go, this is what they teach in medical school, right? They say denial, and they're like, why me? Then anger, I hate the world. Then you go, why is this happening? I promise I'll do this, and don't eat chocolates, and then you take the disease away from it. And then depression, which is extremely hard as a patient to go through all your emotions and everything that is happening. Plus, add to the emotions of having a rare disease, steroids. And then tell me how the depression phase go. Then you go into acceptance. And then you accept that you have this disease, but on top of that, a very important aspect of this is fear, because it's the fear of the unknown and fear of what is going to happen. And I think that is something that we all go through. But you have to move forward. You have to move forward because you need to continue with your life. And then if it's not you, the person that have the rare disease, but the person that you love, you also have to continue with your life. And then how you're going to do that is not that this disease is going to go away, right? It's something that you're going to have for the rest of your life. So you have to deal with it and deal with it the best that you can for you, your family, and the people that love you. So in my journey, I found 3 magic words. And those words are hope, gratitude, and purpose. And I think that this is very important on a daily basis, because when you have a rare disease, your grieving stages are not, you grieve and you're done. This happens all the time. It's always, right? And then you get very sick, you get hospitalized, then you go again. So it's something that you have to think about it like almost on a daily basis to be able to move with your life. Today, we're going to talk about hope. And what is hope? Hope is the belief that the future will be better because we have the power. The power. Where is the power? There you go. Oh no, the power went away. So we have the power to make it happen, right? We have the power. So that is the whole definition of hope, that you have the power and you can make this happen. So this picture is very important to me. I mean, this talk is very important to me overall because like a couple of weeks ago, I was looking at one of the pages, and then one of the patients that have RP was very, very sick. And despite being so sick, she posted a picture with her fist like this. And that to me demonstrated strength and power. So I asked my friends to send pictures with the fist, and then we all have the power. So my power, what I did to use this as a hope was NIH. So when I finished my critical care infectious diseases fellowship, and I didn't know what to do, and I got diagnosed, and I was like, okay, we have to figure it out. I realized that I needed to do something about it. And the best way for me with my background to help was to help patients with relapsing polyhcondritis and do research. But then I was thinking, how is it that I'm going to do that? I'm a critical care infectious diseases people. I know how to intubate people, but I don't know anything about joints or anything like that. So I realized I did not have the knowledge, clinical knowledge or research background to do this. But then I took with these wonderful people that were extremely supportive and empowering. And they were like, you can do this. Let's do it. And I was like, okay, perfect. Go ahead and do it. And then I was extremely lucky to be able to join the National Institute of Arthritis and Musculoskeletal Skin Diseases. I feel extremely welcome in that institute. And I decided to do a rheumatology fellowship. So then if you ask me which type of doctor I am, I'm just going to answer, it's just very confusing. So then, through my journey, I met amazing people, but the person that have helped a lot with this. Like the main character that had helped that made all of this happen is my mentor, friend, and colleague, Peter Grayson. So during my fellowship, under his vasculitis protocol, we were actually able to create the first prospective cohort of patients with relapsing polyhcondritis. So now, if you didn't hear the proudness on that sentence, I'll say it again. The first prospective cohort of patients with relapsing polyhcondritis. And then this is a thank you. And then this is the main group, but our cohort is multidisciplinary. So we have a lot of different subspecialties that evaluate our patients because this is a systemic disease. And then going along those ways, we realized, and I think that this is also a very important point, is that we need to work as a team. You need to work as a team. So it's not, you have to work with other people internationally because this is a rare disease. So we were able to create the International Relapsing Polyhcondritis Research Network. And then we also, with a lot of help, including other different institutions where we have different meetings talking about particular projects that are going to help us with advancing the knowledge in relapsing polyhcondritis, and then currently actively collecting data from UPenn and the Mayo Clinic. And this is the first manuscript from our cohort. And what we basically did is that we identified 3 different types of relapsing polyhcondritis based on the clinical manifestations. And furthermore, on the type 3, which is the one that has the more differences between the clinical manifestations. So, this is what happened. We identified a new disease called VEXAS. So, which is amazing. So let me tell you a little bit about this. So this disease this was published in the New England in 2020, and the person that led the molecular discovery of this was David Beck. He's currently at NYU, but he was working with Dr. Kastner at NHGRI, and then this is a disease that is due to mutations in the UBA1 gene. And basically, we discovered the cause of relapsing polyhcondritis in 8% of the patients. And in here, this is a manuscript published by Peter that has all the clinical manifestations of patients with VEXAS. So basically, with VEXAS, we were able to identify a genetic cause for relapsing polyhcondritis, which I think is pretty amazing in such a short period of time. So then, what are the implications of VEXAS? So for relapsing polyhcondritis is discovering the genetic cause, but more than that is finding mutations that could be the cause for other inflammatory diseases in the adult population. And more recently, we found that 1 in 4,000 men over age of 50 have VEXAS. See, everything is relapsing polyhcondritis, but no, VEXAS. So, and then since then, there have been a lot of interest internationally. And of course, David is working actively in these patients. And then we have the natural history protocol here at NIH. And then furthermore, this is also very important. We have a clinical trial, and this is a treatment trial that could be potentially curative for patients with VEXAS, and this is led by Bhavisha Patel and Emma Groth and Dennis Hickstein and Neil Young. So I'm just going to go back again to the definition of hope, right? So we said that that gives us the power, but there is way more ways that you can have that power. So it's not only research. There are other ways, and I'm going to let my friend Mike Linn talk about the other tools that you could use for power.
Thank you, Marcy. So as you can tell, Marcy is one of the most inspiring people that I've had the good fortune, to meet. And I think she's just an excellent example of, NIH. So when you get a diagnosis, or family diagnosis, someone with a rare disease, it is a shock, just as Marcy had shown. So I got to the same place as Marcy, a slightly different route. My sister was diagnosed with relapsing polyhcondritis. Nancy Linn, she was a retired nurse, and we couldn't really find any research that was more current than the 1920s. And so we realized we have to do something. And just like the panelists before us said, hey, it's very difficult. It's very complicated. It is very difficult. It is very complicated. And there's no easy solution. But to do nothing is not acceptable. So it's one step at a time. It's like climbing a mountain. As crazy as it sounds, you have to do it one step at a time. We had the good fortune, to meet Marcy and to meet her team. So when we started, Mike, I got to hope starting with purpose. When my sister was diagnosed, I said, before I die, I want to do everything in my power to try and get some research done. Optimistically, I thought I had about a 5 or 10% chance. Then I met Marcy, Dr. Grayson, and the incredible staff here. And that gave us hope. And if you would have told me, the first time I was here was, I think, 2016. So you are already in the right spot. And the talent here is extraordinary, not just between these walls, but in the collaboration. So when we got started, we found amazing talent here from top to bottom, everybody we met. We also figured out, what do we do? How do we try this? How do we do the trial and error? So we found the Friends of Patients at NIH. They helped us set up a travel program, which they administer, so we could help get patients, here to do the research, to get that large, cohort. And I just remember when Dr. Grayson and Dr. Ferrada told us, hey, they had 100 patients. That just seemed like 1 million patients, which was great. That wasn't that many years ago. So you're in the right spot. And I think that everybody, has an opportunity to do something. That could be a social media post, it could be a fundraiser, a birthday fundraiser, whatever it is. But we all have the ability, to do something. And I would just encourage you, you've already taken a big step. You're here. For those of you who are listening, you're here. You're in the right spot. And so we went, and this team found those discoveries, but they did way more than that. They introduced us to people all over the world. They introduced us to the people, the Vasculitis, Foundation. They introduced us to people who helped us decide, how do we reconfigure and set up, foundations? What is our role? We have the researcher's role. We have the patient role. We have family role. What do we do to facilitate it? This is an excellent place because at NIH, they turn discoveries into health. And that's a heck of a mission. It's a long, difficult mission, and people are suffering. But from the time that we first stepped in here to what's really happening, they have proven themselves. We have a lot of wood to chop. We have a lot of stuff to do. But in VEXAS alone, that was less than 3 years ago. They discovered a brand new disease. They're already doing bone marrow transplants that are saving lives. So, I started with purpose. That was a family, personal commitment. But as soon as, I met Marcy and she said, where there's research, there's hope. That's really the truth. So you're in the right spot here. I'm not a researcher. You may not be a researcher, but this is where the talent is. So with the help of NIH, we were able to set up the Penn RP Center at University of Pennsylvania. We were able to set up, different biobanks, and we were able to do, a tremendous number of other things. So indicative of this place in Dr. Ferrada, as you can see, she's graciously sharing the stage with us. She takes patients with her. She takes family members with her. And she's just one excellent example. We've seen the same thing with Dr. Grayson, Caitlin Quinn, Wendy Goodspeed. This is an extraordinary place. So for those of you, who are having a difficult time, I understand it. But there is hope. And we believe that hope is around purpose. So I want to thank you for the opportunity. I want to give you the encouragement. What we did on the RP side, we believe is applicable to any rare disease. You have to be nimble. You have to try. And I also want to do, I just want to thank my fellow board members, my sister Nancy, David Bamert, the president of the foundation, David DeRosa, and our new member of the board, who's wonderfully successful and a great addition, Fran Sweeney. As well as I like to thank my brother-in-law, who, when we put proposals forward and got rejected, he said, well, why don't we do it anyway? And I just thought, what a magical way to do it. It reminds me of Dr. Ferrada and Grayson. So where there's research, there's hope. And I don't know of any place that they have more research than here. Thank you.
I just wanted to show you the list of accomplishments from our team and collaboration from 2017 to 2023. So we did the first prospective cohort of patients with relapsing polyhcondritis, and then we have seen more than 100 patients. We help also with create the PEN Relapsing Polyhcondritis program that has been from the Vasculitis Foundation Network and the Relapsing Polyhcondritis Foundation. We created the International Research Network, which we're currently working in all our projects. We were able to participate in the discovery of VEXAS. We are also participating in the potentially curative treatment here at NIH. And then, of course, the RP Foundation continued to promote awareness and research and everything that can be helpful for some of the patients. So this is, I have like 2 more slides, but I just wanted to, again, highlight that you have the power. You have the power to have hope, and then you can make that a reality. And it doesn't matter, how little you do, right? You could be, and then I understand, there are days that are horrible, right? That you're like, oh, so what is it that I'm going to do today? But if you just do a little bit one day, that is something that you can contribute, and then just guide someone that have your same disease. There's so many things that you could do to make that a reality, and then just to highlight that reality looks more like this. It looks like you have a team, you have an army, you have a bunch of people that want to work with you and want to help you, and they all want to help you. I mean, I think that we're all humans. We like to help other humans, right? So I think that you have the power, and then it's important to take action and engage and participate in research and, awareness.
Thank you, Marcy. As you can see, this is a slide of some of the patients that we lost more recently, and it's hard. But another thing I learned here at NIH is exactly how much the researchers truly appreciate the patients. And Dr. Grayson looked at me a few years ago and said, and Marcy said it in a slightly different way, said, without patients, there isn't any research. So I love the respect that they have for patients and for family members, and we appreciate your support here today. Thank you, NIH. Thank you, Marcy.